I would like to ask the question to the panel, to all of you. There is a question in our panel, which is, could we say that Switzerland could be a role model for DAI? Who would say yes to that on the panel here? Nobody? Oh, no? Two? 50%, that's interesting. Who of the audience would say Switzerland is already or could play in the future a role model for DAI? That's a very interesting thing. I will probably ask that question again at the end of the panel. Let's see if we see some changes. But I would like to start with Alexander. You wrote your first book about the crypto and blockchain ecosystem, and your second book, you wrote about the big Swiss AI secret. I would like to talk about that, obviously, right now. Can you share a little bit more about your perspective on the Swiss AI ecosystem?
Sure. The book is based on interviews. I completed interviews about 1.5 years ago. I did about 100 interviews. So I did not hallucinate myself, but I was intrigued by how Switzerland can compete in a global AI race. And I think Switzerland, when you compare it to America, I would say America has a brute force approach at the moment, as you all agree. You know, the numbers they're investing is insane. So the question is, how can smaller nations keep up? And that's one of the things that I explore in the book. I don't know if I shall go further now or we explore that later, but
we will figure it out. But one further question is, you interviewed several people, as you said, and from different perspectives. And what a coincidence, someone you interviewed for the book is sitting right next to you. He's an engineer by heart. So, but still, question for Alexander. So, how did Frederik enrich your book with what he said?
Yeah, you put me on the spot. No, Frederik, as he'll tell about himself, he's been in machine learning AI for a very long time. And he has a very international perspective. And I think he loves certain aspects of the book, of the Swiss aspect, but there's also certain criticism. And I think when you listen to the wider AI community, and that's one thing I've been talking about, is like Switzerland has a lot of innovative companies, and a lot of people like to highlight that. The government, research, ETH, everyone says amazing innovation. The interesting bit, what is a bit lacking, are the Swiss buyers on a bigger scale. And that's one of the things Eric has also clear views on, why this is lacking and why it's important that you not only produce amazing tech, but you also got to have buyers, because without buyers, you're not going to have a company. So that's how Frederik contributed.
Yeah,
I hope you agree.
Very interesting perspective. So, Frederik, you founded paternhn, which builds a production AI system for enterprises, and you work with many industries I've seen on your page, but always with client-owned IP. Can you share a little bit more with us what paternhn is doing in its core?
Yeah, sure. So, I think I did AI or machine learning since 2001, and was pretty much from 2013 up towards 17 with the whole, liberation of deep learning and all the pluses and minuses there. Somebody today mentioned that OpenClaw leaked API keys. I tell you, in 2014 and 15, we had much bigger problems than API key that was leaked because of new technology. But yeah, so we say this very about this whole sovereignty and where the data is stored. Today, companies are leaking tacit knowledge every time they interact with ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, whether it's on an official basis, on a shadow AI basis, or just an employee that have a private account they use. Every conversation they have with AI, they are basically leaking that tacit knowledge out and giving it for free to model vendors to retrain their models on. And we like to say that, hey, we can use the power of these models, but we can do it locally and train your own models locally with your own on your own infrastructure, or even somebody else's infrastructure, where we harness the knowledge around that. So I think, as you see, some of the companies we work with are pretty big, and they all care about that. So I think harness the knowledge about the model and infuse it with your domain knowledge and make it really, really workable on your own infrastructure is really a big play. And I would say, certainly the last 2 years, with the explosion of, I don't know if you wrote my article about code is cheap, software isn't. where you basically say, okay, now everybody can state an intent. Everybody can say, I want to build this, that. But that will only bring you so far. If you don't understand what code is, you wouldn't get far. So you still need engineering. You still need the engineering practice in order to combine all these things and make great things. So the velocity is really the key word here. Because if anything, these code agents have I mean, we have, at Patterhn, we use them, like 70% of our code is done by agent at first. But 100% of the architecture, judgment, calls back and forth are done by human. So use it as a force of good, not a force of negative to start with. I mean, open mind towards it, yeah.
Can you take us back to 2001 when you started off with machine learning? What was your first small success when you started off?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I come from signal processing. And back then it was all about production optimization. So even pattern recognition was something we will do a lot of manually, almost. Like we will have an Excel sheet with like 5-6 rows. It will run 2 days straight and give us a result. I mean, we have come far. I'm 46. I mean, I remember when I got out of university in 2001, it was really there we were. And today, you can basically speak an application into an existent. That's where we are. So that's massive gap.
Only in 25 years. Crazy. Let's see where we are in the next 25 years.
Exactly.
So, Eric, let's talk about generative AI. You are the co-founder of GenAI Zurich, which is the European Summit for real-world applications of GenAI. So I wonder what developments led you to the realization that you want to start an event like this in Switzerland, in Zurich, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah, so this is 2 or 3 months after the, let's say, ChatGPT mainstream moment. I think it was early 2023. Me and my 2 co-founders were in different co-working spaces in Zurich, so that explains maybe already why Zurich. And all of a sudden, every second person was developing something with ChatGPT or other LLMs, right? So we just really saw the need for everyone coming together and exchange also physically. Some people were working on the same solutions, didn't know other people were working on the same. Many were facing the same challenges at this point in time. And to some extent, I was also inspired there by the blockchain space, because blockchain, I think, has a very vivid event, conference, ecosystem globally, right? And that's what led us to do GenAI Zurich for the first time 2 years ago.
We know that AI is developing quick, and GenAI is only one part of it. Will you rebrand the event when it comes to autonomous AI? Or will you always focus on GenAI?
It was a question we faced when we founded it in early 2024. I think so far the name still, has its credibility, because a lot of what's right now moving AI, we will probably label, at least in the mainstream, as GenAI. So I think for now we won't rename it, but who knows how it's going to look like in 2, 3, 5 years. Yeah.
You're also the co-founder of GenAI London. So I wonder, because we are talking about Switzerland and its possible role model position, what can other countries maybe learn or adapt from Switzerland from your perspective?
What I see where Switzerland is doing well is definitely in the academia. ETH, EPFL, etc. are world class. And that also brings a lot of academia, startup sort of alliances, collaborations with it. I think I read a number, something like 70% of the AI startups in Switzerland have some active collaboration with academia going on. So I think in terms of, the research side, we're quite strong. Yeah.
Let's see what London will say in a couple of months to that statement. So, Reto, you are the co-founder of the Crypto Valley Association, which is an independent, non-governmental association founded in 2017 about Switzerland's leading blockchain and crypto ecosystem. I think everyone in this room already knows that, but it's still important to mention it, especially when we talk about the future. Can you tell us where the Crypto Valley Association is standing right now and where you want to go with it? What is your vision with it?
Also, the Crypto Valley Association is in discussion to address decentralized AI. They have about 10 working groups, and one working group should be that's the decision is taken, but now the problem is, how do you facilitate that? And we are still thinking about, because what we do not want, just moderate another AI discussion with relation to this big topic. What we really want to think about first is bring the association on an AI level. That's one thing. And really want to go this way, that really think when we talk about AI, we should be able to at least absorb the tools given as an association. And we have a lot of issues there. For instance, if you have so many working groups, it becomes bigger and bigger, and then you have to facilitate in an efficient way, and AI could help. This is the status we have, but basically the idea to go the decentralized AI way, that's definitely a very clear purpose and ambition. And I think these kind of discussions we have right now helps. And then we try to find what could be the role of an association to facilitate that. And I'm really very happy about the book you wrote, Alexander. For me, it is an inspiration to really go the way. And also what we discussed today is an inspiration. For instance, Alex, who came up with this very holistic trust architecture that is extremely helpful. Also these very concrete examples you heard today about AI in a healthcare setup. I didn't notice that it's so evident that we have to go this way.
Alexander, Reto just mentioned how precious this book was for him. Can you maybe share some hands-on things that are standing in this book? What AI innovations that we think are natural to us, like a Face ID, have their base in Switzerland? Like, can you share a little bit more about the innovations that have a connection to Switzerland, and maybe we're simply not aware of that and you found out during writing this book?
That sort of the Face ID was originating in Switzerland in Technopark, the core of this technology before it was implemented by Apple, and it has a lot of visual technology, obviously, and you can read in my book how that happened. But I think maybe just fast forwarding into the future, I don't know if you saw the news, but Jeff Bezos has a new startup called Prometheus, and Project Prometheus. And there's rumors that some of the researchers are based in Zurich, if you check their LinkedIn profile. So what I'm trying to say is one of the things that is a bit hidden behind the whole generative AI buzz is Jeff Bezos likes to talk about physical AI, but basically how do you make machines, whatever those are, robots and vehicles, more autonomous. And interestingly, what I learned while researching the book is in the digital space, if you're talking about apps or websites or programs, iteration is fast because you can have a lot of computer power and you can run those models, you just need more chips. In innovation or iteration in a physical world is harder because you can't just say we're gonna increase gravitation or we let things run faster. A robot has to learn certain processes in real time. You can't change the time. So what I'm trying to say is that Switzerland has quite a lot of strength at the intersection of engineering, physical things, and AI, and I think that's something that comes up more and more. And Jeff Bezos' venture, if you Google him, maybe an indication how Switzerland could be positioned in the future at the cutting edge of that technology.
The title of the panel is also, it's not only AI in Switzerland, it's decentralized AI. So Frederik, I wonder from your perspective, because you're in the industry, how many percentage of AI applications that are on the market coming from Switzerland are decentralized?
I don't know any.
You don't know any? Is that an issue?
Well, obviously it is, but I mean, the broader question is, are the customers willing to pay for it? Because here's the thing, I heard a lot of stuff today. For instance, Gartner was the thing to trust. August 25, Gartner has a code, not even agent, but tap to code or tap to complete as the frontier thing. I think they had 10 companies listed in August 25. Claude Code, OpenAI Codex was none of them. That's less than a year ago. They are doing 70% of my work today. So out of the window. I mean, like, and people, it's like saying, we want to buy healthy food, we want to buy, ecological and everything, and then you go to the supermarket and say, okay, why are these foods not sold? People don't buy them. Same with this. If you want something decentralized, you must be willing to pay for it. I think the guy from IBM had something they would say, look, it's on the customer. The customer have to pay in order to do what they need to do. It's not the provider's fault. We can provide whatever you want if you pay for it. So that's the question.
So, Reto, you know that decentralized AI will be a topic. You put your focus on it, but you just heard from Frederik that there is not a lot of decentralized AI products at the moment in Switzerland because the attraction to do it is not very big, or there is just the market system how it works is difficult. So what is your perspective or vision on that? How do you want to change that? Which conversations does it need to change that? Because obviously at the moment we do not have a base to become a role model for that.
It's a very important question. Maybe the question is a bit wrong because it's not just about decentralized AI, it's about responsible AI. That is the end result. And how do we define this? We know that decentralized tactics applied at a certain stage of a process can result in a responsible AI. So it's, in my view, it's maybe better to think about what are possible tactics. One is decentralized. Maybe another tactic could be standards rather than regulation. Standards from all the players who are in the creative industry maybe say yes, that helps us to better provide against the ultimate goal to have a responsible AI.
My response will be that's all good, but when we, let's say, scope a product, if somebody came to us and said, hey, want to do this, and we showed them two prices, they would really have to argue for the decentralized part because it would cost you twice as much. And if you're on a competitive market competing internationally, that is a factor whether we like it or not. I'm not saying I'm a fan of it, I'm just saying that's the reality out there.
Maybe I just jump in. I'll try to make a little bridge between blockchain and AI. Because technologically, the challenges are fundamentally different. I mean, blockchain it's decentralized compute, basically the hashing and then the minting of coins. You don't need quantum computing for that. You don't need high speed, the newest NVIDIA chips. Even though NVIDIA before they moved into AI, they were used for minting Bitcoin. But anyhow, it's not necessary, in Bitcoin, for example, is not necessarily a compute challenge. It's not, I need more compute. The Bitcoin community never bought hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA chips. The latest one, because it sort of runs decentralized. But AI, as you can see with OpenAI and all those guys, it's who has more compute power. So it's who has more chip, who has more energy, more data centers. So what that means is
they have to buy that up front for 2028
correct.
Today. So they have to put $1 trillion on the table today for 2028 compute. So you can decentralize and you can have cute GPU clusters. But if you want to compete internationally, I want to see your $1 trillion for 2028 compute now. So not only do you have to predict what's happening in 2028, but you also have to put the money on the table now, today. Good luck.
Yeah, well, this word prediction is not very popular
out of the window.
At the moment, obviously.
You can predict till the next model release.
Yeah.
That's it.
And if you think of it, just to finish up my thought and reinforcing what Frederik said, like when I started out 10 years ago with Bitcoin, people had like their little computers at home. Who did that? Who did some mining at home? No, okay. There's a few people. But did you have the newest NVIDIA chips? No, you just had, it was sort of something you could do. I have a friend, he's heating his house with a mining laptop, Tobias Reichmuth does that. You can look that up. So he does it on the side. But you can't create a new cutting-edge LLM model by running it on your home computer. No, you need a massive infrastructure. And that's what I'm trying to say. If you want to talk about decentralization, it would require you to replicate all of that, however you want to do that. And the dollar tag, the price tag attached is massive, and that's, I think, the fundamental difference, how it's much harder to do decentralized AI. Maybe you want to say something. Otherwise, I will grab the mic.
Yeah, I would be really interested in your perspective.
Maybe adding to what Frederik just pointed out, the capital side of things, I think that's where, blockchain has proven during the different hype cycles over the past couple of years that at least once we are in a hype cycle, we can raise hundreds of millions, also from people like you and me, right? B2C. And if I just think about the last hype cycle, if probably we came to an end of that earlier last year, I think many decentralized AI, projects raised again tens of millions or hundreds of millions. I think it's probably a natural evolution. We started with ChatGPT, closed source. Now I think, especially this year, seems to be a big year for open source LLMs. And now that we have more and more open source LLMs in use, the question of governing these models will naturally arise. And I think that's when we finally seriously will start thinking about decentralized AI in a way that we in crypto are already doing that for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a long-term perspective on why decentralization is important or should be implemented. So, Reto, I would be interested, how big do you see the risk when we don't act now or don't have the conversation now about decentralization or decentralized solutions and just try to be trustworthy for, with these big tech giants, these small group of people who we just should trust? If we lose the momentum now to talk about it and to maybe say, yeah, maybe it is more expensive, maybe it is more complicated, but in the long-term run, it gives us an independency, especially as Switzerland, who always had this as a base, also in a geopolitical perspective. How do you see this question, and especially in a time frame? Why is it important to act now?
So when you look at the news and the media, it's a lot of noise. And you see it as a result, there are these titans, fight of the titans. They can fight, that's fine. What I really want to go for is create a movement with people that see the same purpose and say, listen, one standard could be the sovereign AI. That is really a requirement that has born in the last couple of years, and it's now really evident. And this is kind of a silent movement, and I believe then it may go much faster than you would expect today, because today it's like a threat. You see, we have no money, all the money goes there, and they come into Switzerland like a storm and steal all the intelligence people, they go there, etc. Okay, they shall go there. But if you believe that we have the capacity, we have the capacity. We have not only the intelligence, but we have a supercomputer in Lugano. We have one in Basel, more a commercial one. We have IonQ in Quantum Basel. This combination is just something we have just to stick to it and to go the way, and I believe we are much faster. If you go this way, we are much faster than you would expect, and it's more sustainable.
Maybe I'd like to involve the audience. Who's been using ChatGPT today? You people? Claude? I know. Claude. Oh, there you go. There's a few. Apertus? Oh, all right. Okay, one person. And the rest, you know what Apertus is? No, this is the Swiss LLM. No one, one person is using it, but is it the same experience? Yes, and the problem, I think, when you want to...
Can you ask another question? Can you ask about token per second, the guy that used it, versus whatever, Claude or Chat. So you used it, right? Apertus?
So I literally, when I was researching different LLM models, I asked ChatGPT to tell me all the LLM models.
That's good. And did you notice? I know you earlier you're a scientist. So from a scientist to another scientist, what was the token per second output for that model? Okay, I can tell you it's like 1 to 10 or something. So in other words, if I were to make a meaningful job with that model, I will fail miserably compared to the others. And that's the problem in a nutshell.
But I do think there's a massive asymmetry between the cost of creating the model and running the model. Sure. And I think this is where decentralization, like my earlier point, can happen. Not in the training of the model, but in the execution of models. So I think it's a more kind of tricky position than just the headline numbers.
There's actually, on that note, if you want to check out, last week there was a news. Do you know Infomaniac? It's a Geneva-based data center, a Swiss one, and they even do ads. You can look them up, and it says they're doing ethical cloud, and they have the first independent LLM in Switzerland. You can use. I forgot the name, and actually they did some tests on it, and they asked them about Tiananmen Square and the Uyghurs. What do you think? What the model answered about Tiananmen Square? Said, oh, it didn't exist. It's wrong. It's wrong. So what kind of model are you using? Guess. What? Yes, Chinese model. So they're using the Chinese, I think it's probably DeepSeek, they're not disclosing it. They're using a Chinese model. So you can argue it's decentralized because it's running on a Swiss infrastructure, but the model has been trained by Chinese. So the problem with that is even if you do the inference yourself, the model has been trained by someone else. And Frederik can speak more to that. And they update those models as well. You're not in control what they do to those models. Anyhow, so I think the decentralization in that sense is hard. So even if you run an open source model, you can't, even DeepSeek is, even though it's open source and you're more technical if you want to speak to him, you don't control the weight. So you don't control what the model does at the end of the day. And that's a challenge, And in crypto, you can say, I do my own mining, I have my own node. So there's a lot of things you can do easily to create more decentralization. AI, that's much harder.
Eric, what kind of trends have you observed in the last 2 or 3 years when it comes to applications to AI, to Switzerland? Are people struggling or just putting things out, feeling not responsible? Or how they feed it, the AI? So what is your perspective on that? What is your experience from the last couple of years?
In terms of how AI products are being brought to the market in Switzerland? Well, I see a lot. At our conference, they come and show what they're doing, right? And when it comes to generative AI specifically, we see a lot in customer support, for instance, lots of process automations and so on, where LLMs play a role. I think in that sense, or from a market perspective, something like decentralized AI is still rather far-fetched. I think there's a lot of talk around sovereign AI, which is also what we already heard to some extent today. But that, of course, is a big topic, I would say, in Switzerland. I would imagine even a bigger topic than in some other geographies, to run your own model and have your own compute and so on and so forth. And I think it was highlighted in different talks also today.
Frederik, I still hear out that, I also heard it from Reto's side, we have a beast here. Like with this whole technological infrastructures, with the possibilities, we have a beast, and we somehow have to work with this beast. So what are the strategies? What are the possibilities? How can we use this beast in a way that is beneficial for Switzerland? Because it has a multi-perspective. We have to be able to compete, but still we have to be able to look in the mirror as a country. So what is your perspective on that?
It's definitely come to stay. It's not going to go away tomorrow if we look away. So, I would say everybody becomes a builder now, which is amazing. As an engineer, it's just wonderful that people can state intent, build fast, fail very, very even faster, and then build something that is useful. And I think democratize it even within your own organization. And it's really not about replacing people. I can tell you, I have hired more people the last 1 year than I've ever done before. And my customers are the same. I give a good example. So we did a compliance project for an exchange, actually. Some of our first crypto related topic. I have not been in that space for long. But you know, a big exchange, they have a lot of compliance officers, and it took them everything between three hours and 1 day to onboard one customer. And they came to me and asked me, because they heard what talk I did, about, hey, could AI help us with that? And I said, most certainly, because you know, compliance, auditors, lawyers, accountants, those are the first, like, if you do repetitive work, it's good for AI. RL in front of it, and then 2 months later, you have a solution. So what we did for the exchange, you can think of them as sort of the MasterCards, the Swift for crypto. So we took the whole KYC and AML onboarding from being a 3-hour to 1 day job to 24 seconds by 13 agents that did the work instead. And that is like from onboarding, checking, adverse media, travel rule, FAF regulation, jurisdiction. And now what they did, they prompted then the compliance officer with the right information. I can go into technical depths of how we actually combined these two things and called it language augmented GNNs, technical term, but basically what it means is that instead of you running your graph neural net on one cluster and your semantic on another cluster, we merged these two together and ran them in a multidimensional space. So for instance, A/B trading Zurich and B/A trading Davos may be very visual for the compliance officer to check if they are good or not, or maybe the same person. But now imagine you have 100 variables that will connect two persons to be the same KYC or the same sender. That's really what AI is good at. So we can now, you know, just provide a risk score instead of the compliance officer have to go through a lot of things to check if there is a fraud to be detected. So that's just one way you can use AI in that space, which is pretty controllable. But I mean, I'll say, give it up. Let people work with it. Let people. I mean, in the end of the day, as a humanity, we are really here. We are creative being. I mean, we should use our ingenuity to create stuff and build stuff, and not do the bean counting and moving bricks from here to here. That will be my advice.
Maybe one last question to the round. Thoughts on regulations? Big fan of it?
I have a different concept for digital sovereignty and maybe also for Reto. I think the best comment I heard in Davos this year during the World Economic Forum, where someone said digital sovereignty is a business model. And that sounds a bit strange at first. But what the person explained is sovereignty at the end of the day means you have a choice. And a choice in AI and technology means you need to have another vendor or someone who gives you another product. So you can choose now, unless you want to build it yourself. So in an ideal world, we would now have like 2 or 3 big American LLMs, 2 or 3 French ones, German ones, English ones, Swiss ones, and we could choose. Unfortunately, this is not the case, and that's coming back to the business model. Unfortunately, because there's so much capital involved, the Americans and the Chinese have left the Europeans in the dust. So often when I hear this question about regulation, I'm like, I would rather be talking how we can create more buyers for local tech. Because the reality is, and I've spoken to a lot of AI startups in Switzerland, and I wonder what Eric's observation, 100% of them, 100% go to America for scaling. All of them. All of them. And unless there are Swiss buyers and the Swiss government starts to buy local tech, this regulation discussion is just meaningless because you're trying to regulate American big tech. And we have seen how well that goes with social media. You know, they do whatever they want. So I think, to me, the pushback on this is like, can we start talking how we can get to people to buy local tech and grow our own champions? And then we have something we can compare, and then we can choose. And then we can have the regulatory discussion. So that's a bit my long-winding answer.
think a very precious one. We already come to the end of the panel, but I think I probably will not ask my question from the beginning again if Switzerland can be seen as a role model or not at the moment, but I will conclude that discussions and conversations like we're having here are the base to really bring Switzerland to the right future, to ask the right questions, to have maybe a mindset shift, and to see like how we can tackle the challenges in a geopolitical space when it comes to that. I thank you all for being part of this panel. Big round of applause for Alexander, Frederik, Eric, and Reto. Thank you so much.
Hey!